guys, it's Jackie with Intoxicating Arts, and today I'm going to make a Mother's Day card very similar to the one that you see here. And I'm just going to quickly show it to you. You can see there's some dimensional stenciling on it. There's some shimmer in the background from the Luster mica powders and the Luster mica spray mist. And this, I used 3 different stencils on this. One of them is a set called Mothers Help Us Grow. It comes with a floral frame and then the words. And the cool thing is, as long as you make sure you have the etching on the bottom on the right side, if you stack these together, it will perfectly line up the words with the frame. I don't know if it's really focusing all that well here, but that just makes it so easy to use. And then if you like the frame, I do sell it separately without the Mothers Help Us Grow, being that it's so close to Mother's Day and you're probably done with your cards already. And then we'll use the Moroccan tile stencil on the background. On this card, I used Prima Light Paste. I let it dry and then I sponged down Distress ink over it, and it came out cool. The only thing is you can see the white of the Prima Light Paste in there. So the different thing I'm going to do today is I will be mixing Liquitex Gloss Super Heavy Gel with the Distress inks and then applying that through the stencil. So I'm going to start off with some watercolor paper, and I'm going to trim that down. Alright, and one of the cool things about this stencil is, well, not the stencil, but the technique that I'm using, is if you don't tape it down, your paper is going to start to curl. And that's okay as long as you're anticipating it and you're quick, because it will actually give you this cool effect where it's more concentrated here in the middle, and then it's going to kind of fade out, and it will even go under the stencil. So it kind of gives it this focal type thing. So I do need to make sure that I have this centered on here pretty well, because our stencils are actually 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So what I'm using today are Luster mica spray mist in the color Shallow Waters and Hawaiian Orchid for the background. And I also took some of my blue ice powder and just mixed it with some water in a bottle. So I'm going to use all 3 of these, and I'm going to work pretty quickly because it's going to start to curl. So I do need to pre-mix these with the mixing ball in there. Just make sure my mica is moving around. And I was actually a lot quicker this time than I was last time, so I didn't get such an intense fading technique. So if you want it to fade out more, then don't be quite as quick, and then it'll curl more and you'll have more of that fade type look. Alright, so that's all nice and dry now, and you can see we kind of got more of the fade going on towards the bottom, but I don't know if this will show up very well in the camera, but there is a gorgeous, just beautiful shimmer to the background. So I love that. And I'm going to move on to mixing up my Distress inks with my Liquitex Gloss Super Heavy Gel. And you can do it with just the regular heavy gel or even regular gel medium, and it will work fine. I've been really liking this one lately, so I'm going to use this one. Get a palette knife, and the Distress inks that I chose for this one are different than I used on my last one, I think. This is Worn Lipstick. I have Picked Raspberry and Mowed Lawn. So I'm going to have 2 different flower colors and then the green for the stems. And this might be a little more tricky than the first time, because the first time I could just do a really quick, swipe with my palette knife, get the whole thing, let it dry, and then reapply the stencil and put the color on. So we'll have to see how well this works. I might have to do some masking. I'm going to go ahead and tape down my stencil. Make sure that I have the etching on the bottom face up, so when I get to the next part it will work. Just going to use some painter's tape to tape this down to my surface. There's plenty of room around it to add some tape. Alright, so I'm going to use my lighter color on the, well, I wanted to use it on the small ones. That should be good. And then I can use these on the other one. I definitely mixed up way too much of that color, but that's okay. I have little jars I can put it in. I'm sure I will use it on something else. I got a couple storage jars so I can store my extras. I don't have to worry about any waste. Okay, so time to mix the next color. Picked raspberry. Just put some of that on there. I'm going to put it on all around it so I can get some nice color saturation. There we go. And mix that up. So this is Mowed Lawn. I'm just putting a ton down on here. And we'll start mixing away. Okay, so now I'm going to try to very carefully add this to these areas. I think that is actually done. I'm going to actually save the rest of this one a little bit. Now it's time for the big reveal to see if all of that effort was worth it. I'm going to lift up this stencil and see what it looks like. Oh, nice. It came out really good. Awesome. I need to clean this right away because I don't want this stuff to dry on here. I try to let stuff like this air dry as much as possible, but I'm a little pressed for time, so I did run my heat tool over it, and it seems to be dry enough that I can replace the stencil and do the rest of my work. It's still pretty malleable and soft, but you can already see it has this cool gloss to it. And the ones that are not quite so dimensional, see, I can run my finger over it and it's okay. What I want to do is just get that perfectly in there. I don't want to cause any problems with what I've already done. So I'm going to try to be very careful. Actually, I'm going to go with Dusty Concord. And for some reason on this stencil, a regular cosmetic sponge seems to work the best for stenciling with these letters, so that's what I'm using instead of a different type of sponge dauber. So I'm just gonna go right in there and start sponging. And the good thing is you can kind of peek and see if you got all the areas you wanted to. before you completely remove it. Alright, so I was a little worried about that. I should have not been so impatient because I can see the stencil smushed down on this and I think it might actually be stuck on it. So I'm going to have to carefully remove this. There we go. I'm going to hold it down here because I want to see if my stenciling worked out good. And it did. Okay, so the only problem is I had way too much gloss in this area, so I have this weird kind of globby look over here. Let's see if I can maybe fix that somehow. Let me grab my X-Acto. See if I can kind of just move it around a little bit. That looks a little better. It's not such a fat petal now. Okay, so you can see the stenciling of the words came out really nice. And now all I have to do is make my black border and mount it to my cream cardstock. Alright, and you'll notice that this paper is pretty curled, but that's totally okay because I'm going to mount it on here with some really sticky tape. And that will take care of the curl. And I have it mounted on there, and I can just pull my card base, and I think I'm going to use some foam dots for this one. I didn't do that on the other one, but it adds a little bit of fun to the card. Here's my other one for reference.